The wonder of the Northern Lights reminds us of the intimate connection we have with our star. The aurora borealis happens when solar winds hit the Earth's upper atmosphere. But many of these displays may soon vanish. Something is happening to the solar activity on the surface of the Sun. It's declining, fast.
Whatever measure you use, it's coming down. The solar peaks are coming down. And for example, with the flares, it looks very, very significant.
The solar cycles now are getting smaller and smaller. The activity is getting less and less.
There is a vast range of solar activity. Sunspots, intensely magnetic areas seen here as dark regions on the Sun's surface. Solar winds and UV light radiate towards the Earth. Flares erupt violently, and coronal mass ejections throw billions of tons of charged particles into space. Solar activity rises and falls in 11-year cycles, and right now we're at the peak, the solar maximum. But this cycle's maximum is eerily quiet.
I've been a solar physicist for 30 years. I've never seen anything quite like this. If you want to go back to see when the Sun was this inactive in terms of the minimum we've just had and the peak that we have now, you've got to go back about 100 years. So this is not something that I've seen in my lifetime. It's not something a couple of generations before me have seen.
The number of sunspots is a fraction of what scientists expected. Solar flares are half. Richard Harrison is the head of space physics at the Rutherford Appleton Laboratory in Oxfordshire. He says the rate that solar activity is falling mirrors a period in the 17th century where sunspots virtually disappeared.
The Maunder minimum, of course, was a period of almost no sunspots at all for decades, and we saw a really dramatic period where there were very cold winters in the Northern Hemisphere. It was a period where you had a kind of a mini ice age. You had a period where the temps froze in the winters and so on. It was an interesting time.
Rivers and canals froze across northern Europe. Paintings from the 17th century show frost fairs taking place on the Thames. During the Great Frost of 1684, the river froze over for 2 months. The ice was almost a foot thick. The Maunder minimum was named after the astronomer who observed the steep decline in solar activity that coincided with this mini ice age. The Maunder minimum came at a time when snow cover was longer and more frequent. It wasn't just the Thames that froze over, the Baltic Sea did too. Crop failures and famines were widespread across northern Europe. So does a decline in solar activity mean plunging temperatures for decades to come?
We've been making observations of sunspots, which are the most obvious sign of solar activity, from 1609.